My guest today is Ann Brensley. She is a candidate for lieutenant governor. And I met Ann yesterday. No, I'm not sorry. Yesterday. Geez, what am I saying here? I'm not remembering anything. I met Ann this week at a GOP breakfast where she gave a very quick and impassioned little speech about who she was and why she was running. And I said, all right, I'm going to reach out to her and have her on because I got to say let's get started, Ann. Lieutenant governor.
Yes.
I mean, that's not something, it's like running for vice president. You're not, what brought you to run for lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
I think it starts with just wanting to be a little bit more involved in the Republican Party in general. So I'm like so many people who are listening to this where I am more active in the Republican Party than it seems. I believe a lot of what they talk about. I see a lot of the problems that they've been talking about for years now come to fruition, and we're facing the impact of some of those problems that they had been identifying. And so I was looking at just our state. Right now, in my opinion, we are just so extreme to the left. And that voice, any other voice, and I mentioned it to you when I met you, any other voice is being pushed aside. And that's what happens when you have a state that doesn't have any checks and balances, where there really is a dominating party, where within the dominating party, there's a dominating voice.
Yeah.
And so to me, I was looking at it and I was like, it was so important for us to have a balance of Republican voices and Democrat voices. And when we lost that with Healy, you can see what's happening day in and day out. On the local level, I'm a select woman for Wayland. And so I understand, if I'm not dealing with a problem in our town, a neighbor will tell me. I'm seeing it day to day. And so when I notice that the state in general is not hearing those voices and not addressing those problems, or not giving towns and cities the resources they need to address those problems, I have to do something about it. I really do. It's as simple as that. That's my nature. And so for me, it's if you can help, you help. And the lieutenant governor position is vital in two ways. One, in Massachusetts, it's been kind of the secondary position. I think it's almost eroded to, especially with what I'm seeing right now, more of like a ribbon cutting position, maybe supporting the basic role of the governor. But there's a lot of room for a lieutenant governor to go in and be that voice for the local communities and say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find out what's wrong in our communities, what they're facing, what challenges they have. And I'm going to bring that back to the person making the decisions, which is the governor. And I'm going to help navigate some of these solutions so that they really do trickle down into positive impacts to those communities. So that to me was something that wasn't being identified in the position. And I saw it and I was like, I got to do that. I got to be that voice.
I think that's a really good point. We had actually somebody else who was at that event that we were both attending, was Lieutenant Governor Polito.
Yes.
Right. And she did a lot of it. She made a point to get to 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She went to all of them.
Yes.
To listen and find out what was going on and actually do the job. Yes. And I think to your point, there is it's almost like the English Parliament or something like that, where we have the lieutenant governor, or the whole entire democratic infrastructure is just sort of one lump of a party.
Yes.
And they just move as a blob rather than an independently within their positions, and they navigate as a group and as a party. And I think there needs to be that, because the lieutenant governor can't just be a cheerleader for the governor. They actually have to do something. And we saw that with Lieutenant Governor Polito.
Right.
And so to that point, I mean, we can get into a whole bunch of the issues. Let's start there. You're on the ground in Wayland.
Yes.
There's a bunch of state issues we can talk about too, but what are you hearing in Wayland and other places that the lack of resources that coming from the Commonwealth, or lack of support?
I mean, you're talking about towns and cities that have been facing overrides for a long time, we're dealing with that right now. We're navigating that. Economic development, how do you do that? How do you go in there and get the right people to want to develop in your town in the right way? And I'm dealing right now with the the MBTA Act, and that's the state's attempt of helping towns do some housing development, make affordability more manageable for younger generations or even families, maybe even retirees. But in my opinion, that hasn't been done well or executed well at all. And so you have towns who are like, you know what, we have expenses, we want to continue to offer resources, but we now have the state coming in and telling us, there's now going to be these energy charges for families, so their pricing is going up. We don't want to raise taxes, put more burden. And then on top of that, as a town, the economic development that could increase dollars is now being dictated by this MBTA Act. We're trying to navigate that. That's just inefficient. If you trusted the towns and the cities a little bit more and you said, hey, we're trying to reduce housing costs so that families can stay in Wayland, retirees can stay in Wayland, young families can afford to be in Wayland, and we think that the way to do that is to increase housing, put together a plan, and trust the towns to do that in the most efficient way that would work for what they want to see in their own towns. That to me was a much better approach.
Well, it's the central planning aspect of it, right? So yes. I've been a lifelong Republican, and one of the core pillar of that is to get away from central planning by people who know nothing about it, right? So bureaucrats and academics who don't have zero clue of what the practical, practical things taking place in the real world. And when we have a situation like this with the MBTA Communities Act, I have mixed feelings about it. I think the idea of an incentive structure by the Commonwealth to the cities and towns to say, okay, we need to build more housing.
Help us.
Here's a carrot. Okay. Yep. Here's a carrot. It's probably maybe a decent idea to say, all right, build it near around public transportation, nice apartment buildings, condos, what have you. Do that, and here's an incentive to do that because you can spin up a lot quicker than single family homes on bigger lots. What we've seen with Attorney General Campbell, with the governor, is more of the stick. It's like, oh no, you're going to build it the way we want you to build it, and you don't get to you don't get to decide. Right. And that's baffling to me because it's just why the reason why a town is a nice town,
right,
is because of the rules that are in place and the structures that they have. So when you force them to do something that they just don't want to do, you're going to get that backlash, and they don't need to. It should be more of an incentive plan rather than a punitive action. And the progressive mindset, to go back to your first point, it doesn't see it that way. It is, this is the law, and you're going to do what we tell you to do, which is the theme of Healy, Driscoll, Campbell, the entire Democratic Party. They know what's best, and they're going to tell you what to do.
I mean, think about the fact that cities and towns right now are being essentially told, we're going to withhold money from you. The state is going to withhold money from you if you don't do this. And there's still cities and towns that are bucking that. And they're saying, we don't care. You coming in here and trying to control us or force something that we know won't work.
Right.
We're not okay with it. And they are pushing back. And that says something really important, which is that the conversations never were had, right? Because I think exactly when you say you have mixed feelings, I actually think you and I don't have mixed feelings. Our feelings are very clear. We want more housing if that's going to help reduce costs to make people's lives in Massachusetts. So we're on the same page there, right? We don't like you as a state who have no real experience in doing this, forcing it upon towns and cities. And so and I think you and I have probably the same positions, very clear positions that most of Massachusetts has. So, are we the majority or the minority? Right now, I think our opinions that you just shared that I agree with are the majority. And yet the minority position, in my opinion, in the governorship right now is controlling.
Well, this is what you have the challenge of in your campaign. right?
Yes.
So you have to get to the voters and convince them of that.
Yes.
And it's not easy to do when you have someone at the top who is beating the drum of distraction and excuses and blaming everybody else for why things are the way they are, right? I get frustrated with it, but I've come to expect it from the Democratic Party. They're really bad at governing. And I said this when I ran for office a long time ago. I was like, never underestimate the Democratic Party's ability to govern poorly.
Right,
They're
especially
just-
fiscally.
they're
especially
just-
fiscally
yes.
on this type of stuff.
Yeah, they're just not good at it.
Right.
And when I see situations like this where they don't get the fact that, like, okay, these cities and towns don't want to do this. Why?
Right.
Go back and adjust, or don't sue them.
Right.
Or try to make or find out what the deal is to what you said earlier. Like, visit them, talk to them, rather
Right.
than just childishly sitting on your hands and try to make things happen the way because you think it's best.
You're bringing up something super important and something I'm hearing across every community I've visited so far, which is, can we really do this? Can we really win back the governorship? And can we kind of get the voice and the message out there enough to sway people, which is what you just brought up. And that really is the second reason I ran, which is I think it's all hands on deck. Like, I think that if we allow, in my mind, I was like, it's probably a combination of me just always willing to jump in the pool. But it's also, if we don't start having this messaging go out now, like, I'm so impressed that the governor candidates right now, the two that are out there, have been campaigning for months. I mean, this is over a year in advance, right? They're going a year and a half to say, hey, it's going to take time for us to get that messaging out. And so to me, it was all hands on deck. Like, the lieutenant governor position, whoever wants it, I invite whoever wants to go up and try this. Let's all get our message out there. Let's just every day navigate that rather than have the LG position not do that.
There's better with more voices who can articulate what we want to be.
Yes.
And
it'll resonate.
Well, this is the thing that candidates don't know before they get into the race. And I think I didn't know this. Most don't. Nobody knows who you are.
Right.
Right. Nobody. If you think like, oh, a few people in Wayland know you, like, okay, they know you, but nobody look, my big old face is on the camera for people still don't know who the hell I am. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take time to build that and go, oh, Ann, I like what she had to say.
Right.
And I'm listening.
Right.
And I'm going to listen again. And then, you know what? They're going to get my vote.
Yeah, and I'm cheating. I'll tell you how I'm cheating right now. Because
please tell it.
The voice that I'm putting out there is just the voice I'm hearing. So people are like, that's resonating. I'm like, it's not my voice.
Because they're not alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm listening and I'm seeing the patterns and I'm repeating the patterns and I'm trying to tell everybody in the Republican Party the patterns. A, because that's my, the benefit I bring to the table. And B, because I think that's how we win. Because these are not Republican views. These are people making sense, understanding that the problems in our state aren't being dealt with, and here's how we could solve it. And they're logical. They're logical.
Speaking of, I got to put a little plug here to get the message out. So on the screen will be, please contribute to the Republican Party. There's a QR code on the screen right now and the link to donate to help get this message out there, get episodes like this with Ann out to the public. I think... Yeah, getting the message out there. That's why I put this show together, to help and assist in that. Just another tool in the toolbox. You mentioned this at the breakfast the other day, and I think it really resonates with people because they're intimidation.
Yes.
Right.
Big word. Important word.
But this is the theme that I really see it when we see it culturally. We see it in the schools.
Right.
We see it even in the workplace.
Right.
Up on Beacon Hill, it's, if you don't like something, we're going to label you the worst thing in the world and say you're evil. Right. And I don't think they have any other plan of attack. So there's no other argument for them. It's just like there's this sense of moral superiority that the left has. And it's like, well, if you disagree with me, you're the bad person. Right. And if you're the bad person, I get to feel good all the time and I get to be correct. And it's No.
Right.
We're going to have the discussion. We're going to have it out. We're going to listen to what people are saying.
Right.
There are a lot of issues going on in the Commonwealth, our schools.
Yes.
I'm hearing more and more. There was something that came up yesterday. You know what? Do you mind if I pull this up? Let me just go this just real quick. Sorry. We're reacting in real time here, folks, but this is what the charm of a podcast is. So let me go back to my profile. So I had up, okay, so this came up yesterday. So a new outlet, Mass Daily News Live, was the Anti-Woo Coalition, has flipped this over to a website.
Okay.
So this came out in South Boston.
Okay.
This is new. Parents in Southie are fuming over Oliver Hazard Penny Elementary put up a Hispanic Heritage Month board celebrating. No, Hispanic Heritage Month board, fine. Yep. Totally cool.
Okay.
All right. Celebrating communist dictators Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and Juan Perón. Parents meet tomorrow to discuss. Principal Brendan McGrath, progressive, signed off on it. Now, I want to pull up this picture right here because there's Rafael Nadal. There's a whole bunch of people. There's baseball players. I can't really read that right there. But so this is Fidel Castro.
Right.
A revolution is not a bed of roses. A revolution is a struggle to the death between the future and the past. In elementary school, mind you,
right,
is quoting a brutal communist dictator.
Right.
In Boston.
Right.
This is insane. And I think what, to your credit, Massachusetts, I think, is so thirsty. Yes. And desperate for voices of people who are willing to just stand up and say, no, enough is enough. Fidel Castro, communism, you can teach about communism, but you can't teach communism. Communism, sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here.
That's okay.
So this is a major problem. The liberals and the left think that there is some open-minded tolerance that we all must possess in order to hear voices and the other side of the argument. To an extent, that's correct. But when the line crosses over, well, we want communism throughout the last 70, 80 years wants to overthrow our government and replace it with a communist one, that is called what is a closed society. We don't allow that. Right. Like George Soros has his organization called the Open Society. No, we live in a closed society. There are certain things off the table. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Correct. If you support them, that means you want the overthrow of the United States government. Period. Full stop. End of story. If you support communism and Fidel Castro, if you lionize him, you want this overthrow of the United States government.
Right.
That's not allowed. We don't have to be tolerant of that. And there's a confusion out there with people who may not know any better, or the left who are sympathetic to communist ideals. That this is sort of just something you can do. You can't.
So I think, no, you can't. And I think, a lot of people are still using the word liberal Democrats. I call them extreme at this point. And I say that because I think I'm going to give credit to people in Massachusetts and say that there are a lot of people who would completely understand what you just said. And they don't need to be Republicans to understand it.
Right.
And when you're talking about what's wrong in the voice between the people, the communities, and then the state, what you're bringing up right now is a perfect example of that. Because I can tell you, Hispanics did not help pick out who the representatives were for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Well, that's huge because, if you go to Florida,
right,
and the Cuban community there, the brutality that Castro inflicted upon the people there, they are, to say the least, are not big fans.
Yes.
Can you do me a favor? Can you wave your arm? See, I say this every time. These are motion detector. There we go. That was on me. Nobody's going to film you waving your arm like this. I'm going to put this up. Again, people, I say this every time. Donate. I need real studio lights. These are on motion detector lights. You got to do it. So we'll clear that. But this is huge.
Yes.
This is huge.
But this is it, right? So this is like, who was involved in this? And who was listening to who in this scenario?
Yeah.
Because I think as somebody who is Hispanic, I would have some people that I would like to put up there that did not include Fidel Castro. So I think there was probably a huge gap in communication. And you've brought up in the past the, what happened in Burlington with parental rights. And that too, I don't think we even have to go to the extent of saying, oh, well, Republicans feel this way and Democrats. No, there is a lack of communication and respect at this point for parents' involvement in their own kids' learning. And I only bring that up because you mentioned this is elementary school.
All right. So this is Jeff's personal plea to all candidates. I think there are like 4 issues.
Right.
That if we run on this as Republicans, quality of life issues. So, okay, call it neutral schools. We get politics and cultural issues out of the schools.
Right.
If you want that for your kid, I said this on the Burlington Parents episode, you opt in.
Right. There
is no, we're going to teach this, and if you don't like it, well, you can opt out, but you really can't opt out because we're going to sort of force it and backdoor it. But right. No. If you have some little program that you want to push some ideological thing, but it's your school district. Okay, people can vote those people out if they don't want it at all. But if you're going to do it, it's all opt-in. And I want to start hearing that from all the candidates running for office. Opt-in, not opt-out. You don't get to choose to, because everybody's going to opt out.
Right.
If they have that choice. So that's 1. 2, this may sound silly, no more state money for not a nickel for bike lanes.
Interesting.
Bike lane, they have screwed up. They have screwed up traffic all across the Commonwealth, and maybe like 0.0001% of the population uses it. It's not a legitimate form of transportation. We should improve the bus system. We should improve the train system. We should, make cities and towns safe and walkable, but not cater to this very, very loud minority. Get rid of the bike lanes.
I have to research that. So I'm completely on board with you on the first one. I got to research it. I researched the trains, so I have positions on that. But the bike lanes, I need to research that.
Okay. Well,
I'm continuing to listen.
We got time. We got time. I mean, and there's a couple more things. I think Massachusetts should ban ticket scalping. Just quality of life things where if you want to take your kid to the Red Sox game, you shouldn't have to pay $400 when the face value of the ticket. We don't need ticket scalpers. They literally don't need to exist. There's websites, theredsox.com. You can go there, you can buy it. I don't need an in-between person to do it. They don't need to exist. They only exist because, and they cheat. Right. By the way, they cheat to get to buy those tickets. They have bots and computer programs that buy up all the tickets. Little things like that. You want to take your kid to the circus? I swear to God, they're buying up all this stuff. These are surface level quality of life issues, right? Okay. So, school neutrality.
Okay, definitely.
Bike lanes.
Research.
Ticket scalpers.
Makes sense.
I mean, stuff that everybody's talking about, housing and economic development and job growth. Yeah, we know those things. But if you get a hold of that, really piss people off on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
While they're sitting in traffic and they see an empty lane that used to be for cars, now it's bike, that person's gonna donate to your campaign. So all right. There's my pitch.
It's not a bad pitch. I think it's listening pitch where I'm like, ticket scalper. So I just remember the Taylor Swift pushback and how she was really upset because it became a status situation, right? Where you had people who probably been in their rooms listening to her music who probably saved up and were willing to stretch themselves in pricing, and they couldn't go. And so they missed out on that experience. And so then you found that it was, all catered to a wealthier population. So I'm very curious as to the statistics behind it, especially in Massachusetts, because gosh darn it, we are a state that love our sports and and our music. And so I'm going to have to look that up. I can't say that was something that had come on my radar, but from the middleman taking a piece, I think we all can find that a flaw in that and
they
across
don't need
the board.
To exist. See, all right, See, you're listening to the voter.
Yes, I'm listening to
it.
the voter. But it's also something we see it. We see the middleman, because what happens is exactly what you said. The middleman becomes a monopoly, right?
Yes,
so
yeah.
he starts getting AI to create a bot for it. And AI is actually something people don't know this. And so I'll put it out there because it's something that I can talk very intelligently about, and it hasn't been brought up, but I know a lot about AI and machine learning and how that's going to influence towns and cities. And, nobody has really brought up something except that, because I can tell you that the middleman that you're talking about is going to be dominated by technology if it isn't already. And so it is going to always be skewed to make specific people money who have that capability. So we either have to make sure that we have enough schooling available to teach our next generation in Massachusetts how to be those third parties, or we have to, as a state, say, hey, those are taking advantage of people.
I mean, there's a real opportunity here for all the things that aren't being addressed, and this is so right now, what to get a little political, right, campaigny. Yeah. Josh Kraft just ended his campaign after he got stomped in the preliminary mayoral election for Boston. Boston is, if you live in Western Mass, sorry, I don't mean to offend you, but Boston is the center of the universe for this state. It just is, okay?
Yes.
It's our capital city. It's the biggest city. It's the most important city in the state. And it needs to run well, and it needs to be growing, and it needs to work.
Right.
And Josh Kraft, I wanted to come on here, and him to come on here, ran a bad campaign. Mm-hmm. Okay? He ran a bad campaign. But the one shining light he had, I'm sorry, I got something in my eye. The one shining light he had when it sort of caught fire was the bike lanes. Mm-hmm. People really responded to it.
Okay, then I really do need to do this research.
It's one of these things. It's like not another nickel of state money, what we're in control of as far as in the state government, not city government. And what you're going to find is people be like, yeah, it's a cost-benefit analysis too. You're making life less convenient. We live in New England.
Right.
The weather sucks half the year.
Yes, it does.
In the middle of February, nobody's riding in the bike lanes.
Right.
Let's stop. Let's be smarter about it, not cater to really loud, obnoxious people. I think, but it's thematic. If we can start telling people that we're listening to them and we understand what's going on, we're not lying to them like Michelle Wu and, well, we're the safest major city in America.
Right.
And just, it's like, well, a naked guy just was shot by a cop in Beacon Hill 2 days ago because he was on drugs and attacked them with a knife.
Yeah, let's go Mass and Cass.
The Mass and Cass is an open-air drug market. And Michelle, we are the safest major city in America.
Right.
There was a beating last week.
Right.
Broad daylight, on the sidewalk. And it just, people are being gaslit.
Yeah.
By Healy, by Wu, by Driscoll, to not believe what their lying eyes.
So the safety thing is another theme that I've been hearing a lot about. And I actually talked to a woman yesterday who came from a very affluent part of Massachusetts. And she was dealing with it. She was seeing a dropping of the ball with her community's police department. And, in my mind, just having understood kind of what was going on in all different parts of Massachusetts, including, very small towns that receive very little support to, very wealthy towns that, have the financial means. To me, it's the whole justice system is flawed at this moment in time. So when you look at the LG position, just, keep in mind that they make a huge impact on the judges and the appointments of judges and the impact of how we're going to judicially operate. So that's an area of interest to me, and as an attorney also.
The campaign aspect of it, to get it back to what we're running for, is, and I thought of this, and now I'm seeing it more online. We can be, the Republican Party and Republican state leadership can be a counterweight to the incompetence of Boston and other municipalities. Like the Boston City Council just voted in favor 8-3 for needle exchanges, like more to basically enable intravenous drug use. we shouldn't be doing that. We, as a society, these people need help.
Right.
Okay. And just throwing up our hands and going, well,
yeah, the campaign.
Guess we can't do it. It's a failure. It's laziness. And that, I mean, look, this is progressivism. Progressivism is laziness. They want to take other people's money. They want to set up a committee. They don't want to do the hard work of governing. They just want to blame other people.
Right.
And give up. All right, well, they're going to do their drugs, so let's give them some needles so they don't do it, so they do it more safely. Forgive my French, bullshit. We have to be better.
Isn't that what we see anytime any state doesn't have the checks and balance in place, right? So, I mean, you literally have a room full of people who are going to agree with you. And so you're not going to have those hard conversations like, well, this isn't working, or this isn't what people are asking for, or how come we have our states or our towns within the state pushing back on us on something that we put in place. And so that right there is the argument. And by the way, it's been an argument that's been settled by the people in Massachusetts across all political parties, because we have wanted that checks and balance for this very, very reason, right? Because people are seeing their day-to-day lives get impacted, whether it's energy costs, whether it's that they can't afford housing, whether they can afford housing in one of the nicest neighborhoods, but still don't feel like they're safe. I mean, that's a big deal. I've heard about victims feeling re-victimized by the system itself. Like something is wrong there, right? For me, when I look at it, I obviously jumped in. It's the lieutenant governor position is not the governorship. It's a position that essentially says, you know, hey, I'm going to be your right-hand man. And in my mind, the right-hand man has to work as hard, if not harder, to make sure that those people's voices aren't lost.
Yeah.
It's just, it needs to happen in the state. Otherwise, I don't know who's listening. Who's listening?
Well, that's our job.
Yeah.
You know, it's our job as Republicans to be better about listening, to go into those communities that are being ignored.
Yes.
And I think that's what the theme that is developing, I think that is going to be developing through this campaign and into next year, is the shift and deflection by Haley Driscoll, the shift and deflection by Wu,
yep.
where it's just all they want to do is go Trump, 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 and meanwhile the state's falling apart.
So one thing you brought up that I would love to touch on again, if that's okay, is intimidation. I've been told it's a big word. It's a charged word. And what I'd say is just tell the story of, I was at an event in Worcester with Brian Shortsleeve, and this woman, we had a Q&A. And so this woman knew that she had a candidate for governor and a candidate for lieutenant governor in the room. She could ask any policy question she wanted, any fiscal question she wanted. And she asked, how do we have these conversations with family members and people that we care about and convince them that we're not these terrible people just because we're Republicans? Now that I'm paraphrasing what she said, but I think that was the heart of what she was trying to say. Yeah. And I'm hearing more and more people just being like, well, I lost a friend. I lost a neighbor. I can't have these conversations. And I'm like, that's insane. That's unhealthy, because we are in Massachusetts. No matter what, there are specific values that we all share outside of our party. And then there's values that we have that we lean and we feel more tied to a specific party. But the basic values of being here, we've all chosen this state to raise our families. We feel it's the representation of who we are. So for people to feel like they can't come out of the woodwork and say, I'm a Republican, or, actually I kind of like those guys over there. Yeah. It's hard.
Let me say this. So that is essentially where we're at. We saw a couple weeks ago with like Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
Right. So we all know somebody in our lives, and it's probably only a few people that I saw people I knew in my social media feed that I knew in, high school were like celebrating it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't need you in my life anymore if you're going to do that. Like, we're done.
Right.
I just Facebook friends. Then you saw people making excuses.
Right.
He didn't deserve to die, but. Like, no but. There's no but. Nobody deserves to die and be murdered for their political opinion.
Right.
Yet there's this gravity within the left and the progressive movement to constantly, touched on it before, demonize, right, the other side because their arguments are bad.
Right.
So I've been saying this for a while. I want progressives to come onto this program. Let's talk about it.
Right.
But they're probably not going to, because when they do, they lose. So, and so why would you? Well, if why would they come on to a place where they're going to lose when they can sit safely on blue sky, say everybody's a fascist and a Nazi and evil, and they're morally superior? You know, and then so we have this sickness, I'd say, in our society, and we got to break it. We got to break out of it. I think we are, in the sense that we're getting better at communicating or reaching out. And I want to keep reaching out because I think it's a good thing. But the other side really isn't willing to. But I think that long term is going to hurt them and help us. And people are going to say, they're going to watch conversations like this, and they say, oh, they're really talking real.
Isn't it crazy how freedom of speech was really identified as so paramount, right? We keep seeing it being tested.
It was a left-wing thing for decades. It was the right that at the time, the Christian conservative right that wanted to censor people.
Yeah.
Now, for 10 years, it's been disinformation. We got to stop disinformation. Wild. It's wild.
It's just really interesting how important some of these rights we're facing those challenges, and we're facing it in an uncomfortable way. Meaning, if you believe in freedom of speech, you have to believe in freedom of speech. So whether the person's opinion is yours or not. Now, there's always going to be that inciting violence. I think we can all say we don't want freedom of speech that incites violence in any way.
Well, I mean, but there's distinctions, and let's get into it. Let's talk about it. What are those distinctions? And you'll have Elizabeth Warren getting up there and saying, well, we can't allow disinformation. Well, who gets to decide that? You? No. No.
Exactly.
Because
it's got to be neutral, and then all of a sudden everybody agrees, but then when you have to actually execute, they're going to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is not, and it's like, no, freedom of speech is freedom of speech.
It is the number one, I think, and I agree with Elon Musk when he bought Twitter. It is the number one issue of our time. Period, full stop. Because everything is affected around that.
Yeah.
Everything.
And everybody's voice can be magnified or diminished. Everybody's voice, depending on the resource that they have. So that it's just shocking to me how we can't even come together on that one issue. And by the way, I give credit to some people who can go ahead and say to themselves, okay, like, I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk at all, but he had a right to speak. He had a right to live. He had a right to raise his children. I appreciate that. I applaud that, because that's somebody who's saying, I identify that voice didn't work for me, but that voice needs to exist, and that voice needs to be able to resonate with whoever it resonates with.
And that's a difference between the people who say, well, Charlie Kirk shouldn't have got murdered, but he shouldn't have said what he said. It's like, no.
There's you can't.
That's not.
That's an abuse. I mean, that's the biggest cost. That's a martyr situation.
I think there's a freeing element to saying, I'm a Republican. I believe what I believe. Right. Come like Charlie Kirk did. Come debate me. Right. Debate me.
Right.
And as soon as you put that challenge out there, right, to people who are being intimidated, like that person you met who is saying, they feel the pressure,
right,
all around them, and they do, because the pressure's real. Because the people who are left leaning in the workplace will, by all means, feel free. They'll throw that grenade in the room and say that comment, and you can always tell who disagrees. Well, they'll go. They'll close their mouth, they'll bite their tongue, and they'll nod. Right. And but there's places to have those conversations, and there's places to not have those conversations. And the left has gone so far into everyday life of that intimidation factor of I'm pushing my views into every situation. It's like, no, you're there to build a widget or provide a service or whatever it is for your business.
Yeah.
That's what you're there to do.
So,
not talk politics. And it is this cultural aspect that I think more and more people, it's going to be slow. It's going to take a long time for people to get comfortable with actually, I won't even say fighting back, but just being like, no, speaking up.
Right.
And not being afraid of retaliation.
What I wanted to tell that woman was finding that common ground, because right now I think we're just not even communicating. So for instance, when we were talking about, the parents' role within schools, like, hey, teach our children, don't include all of these additional, opinions and politics and positions in their learning process. And I think there's probably a lot of parents who are confused of how they feel, because they're like, well, I wanted my kids to feel welcoming towards this type of person, but now I feel like I'm not even being allowed to be the person to teach them that. And I would say that the common ground and the place where I would have a conversation with anybody who is like, as liberal goes in the Democratic Party is schools, the lesson is tolerance. We want our children to be tolerant of people who are different than us. But when we start educating them on what that tolerance is and how it works and what you are as a person if you don't tolerate specific things, and then we exclude other types of people to tolerate people who might be religious in different ways, and we say, oh, well, that could be too extreme. That's not tolerance. Tolerance is accepting this specific type of person. If you don't do it, you're a racist or you're... That's where we go wrong. So that's the part where, unfortunately, at this point, I think parents have to say, you know what, teach my kid tolerance. That's it. That's it.
It's the sad state of that is like, that's a very, what you just said is a very normal and common sense position.
Everybody would agree type of position.
The problem is, though, the people that are in those positions to teach it don't see it that way, right? So what we can do, like, there is actually, where culturally I think we've seen the shift is like there can be a pushback where parents and politics can get involved and say, no, you've had your chance to do that.
Right.
Now we are taking that ability away from you because you've been irresponsible with it for many, many years, and we've seen the blowback of it, and they're not your kids, they're the parents' kids. And these are fundamental questions we have to get to as a society, and we should talk about, is that who's in charge of the kids?
Right.
The parents or the schools?
Right.
Because I know what Max Page and the teachers union and Randy Weingarten of all that, I know what they think.
Right.
But they're wrong.
Really,
yeah, we are. So
and by the way, this conflict exists, but not in every state.
Yeah.
So that's part of the overall storyline, right? Of what happens when you have really one dominating party and you can't even listen. Because I can tell you right now, there are teachers that are frustrated because they have policies that are being told that are being pushed on them, and they feel uncomfortable about executing some of them. And they don't know where to go because essentially the parents are coming to them complaining about the issue. And then the administration is saying, that you have to do it this way. And that's the gap of communication right there, because and then they're being blamed. So the teachers, like, shout out to a lot of teachers who may be sitting there thinking to themselves, like, I agree with 80% of what I'm being asked to do, but there's a portion that I feel uncomfortable about and I can't even voice it. And then I have parents who are voicing the very same opinion against me. And so it's a hard time to be a teacher. It's a hard time to be a parent. And we're definitely seeing that.
And it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be, of course.
And we need leadership to speak out to that. And I think you're going, if you stay on that theme, you're going to be very successful. I think we're going to be very successful as a party. And enough is enough.
Right.
We're getting it out of the schools.
Right.
Because one, while they're being taught that and indoctrinating with that nonsense, they're not learning math, and our math scores go down. Our reading scores go down.
Yeah.
It's a cost-benefit analysis. They get 6 to 7 hours a day in the school. If they're doing something that is not educational, then it gets subtracted from their education. And more parents, because they don't, the conflict of it, you've stepped up. So you're willing to get in the arena
and
take on the fight.
Right.
A lot of parents just like, hey man, I'm trying to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I can't take on this extra burden. But they're looking for people to take up the charge. And when we do that as a party and people step up to the plate like yourself, people will back them up.
Yeah. And I think
for sure.
I've seen a lot of events, and I've attended a lot of RTC meetings, and there are people who are sitting there and they're like, I'm going to go for school board, or I'm going to go do. We have to reach out to those people and just tell them that you can do it. You're going to have our support. We're going to be here to knock on doors. We're going to be here to support you in any way we can. And that message has to get out to those individuals in those communities, because it's hard. Running for select board, I don't know. I think I have a little bit of a fearlessness in me in certain ways. And so tasks that might seem very difficult for others to face, I do tend to just do it. And maybe it's because I've just had that adversity for all my life. So I'm not as nervous about it, but what you're up against is real, right? So you have people within your community making judgments on you. You have positions that you're taking that some people don't agree with. And the people who don't agree with you are the ones who are verbalizing, right? So You're not hearing like, great job, I agree with you. You're hearing the pushback. So it's really important that as a party, we support those individuals, because we need as many from the positions. They keep saying like down the ticket, but I actually use that word and I wish I hadn't, because it's really every single position matters. Because it's a voice of authority, whether it's a voice in a small town, whether it's a voice in a major city as a mayor. So I would just say supporting all candidates, because it's not an easy process. It's not. And I've seen the positive, I've seen the negative, I've seen attacks on me from the Democrat side, I've seen attacks on me from the Republican side. And you have to stand as strong as humanly possible in what you're trying to do. And that's hard. You're in the arena, right? It's easy for people to tell you afterwards what you did wrong in the arena, how you should have punched, how you should have kicked, how you should have gotten up faster. But until you're in that arena, it's a very difficult thing to explain.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Good.
Ann Brensley. The website is Anne, ANNE, 2026.com. Go support her campaign. This is, we're still in 2025, so we got a ways to go, but this is all a part of it. You got to get out there, let people know who you are, what you believe, why you're running. And thank you for running. Anybody who steps up to the plate and gets in there, I mean, they're putting their name out there for people to judge them. And I've done it and other people have done it, and it's an admirable thing to do because it's part of the democratic process. And we're going to keep moving that forward. So one last pitch for us. Please help this program out. Go to the link on the screen, scan the QR code, donate today. I would appreciate your support so we don't have to get Ann to wave her arms at my motion detector lights. All right, everybody. Until next time, this has been, let me clear this, this has been Back to Normal. And we are Massachusetts Republicans, and we are bringing the state back to normal. So thank you, Ann, and we'll have you back on again.
Thank you for having this platform, and thank you for listening.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.